to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. With me is co-host Jess Baker, and joining us for the episode tonight is back again is Matt Hickey. Jess, how are you? And Matt, how are you doing?
Well, I'm fantastic. I am really excited because it's May.
Yes, and I'm not going to say a Justin Timberlake meme or GIF that commonly goes around because Jess loves it so much. But I appreciate you guys having me on, and glad to be back on for another episode.
Yeah, it's finally May. Obviously, testing got started on Monday, and Indianapolis Motor Speedway cleverly named it May 0, which I kind of liked because you could tell in every interview nobody really knew what to say for testing. But I especially like, and I hope maybe they keep this couple days of testing to kind of start the month instead of doing it at the end of March like originally planned. What were your guys' initial impression of practice, if you got to watch or just read up about it, and we'll dive into it from there.
Well, I of course am excited because the person who I picked in our little poll quite a while ago to win the Indy 500 topped the practice charts. So of course I'm excited about it. I would love to see TK do good.
Yeah, I mean, in the immortal words of Allen Iverson, we are just talking about practice, and especially not only practice, but we're talking about a test session. So I do think TK's time at the top of the charts is impressive, and I think it's a good sign for him and for Chevy, but I don't know how much we can read into it quite yet.
Yeah, I know testing is a tough one. It's tough to really glean what guys are kind of trying to get out of testing. Although seeing, a speed of, an average speed for, Kanaan of 226 and, Pagenaud just under 226 and a bunch of guys in the 225 range is, higher than I believe testing was, just a little bit higher than the test was last year. But obviously for Kanaan, a huge, confidence booster going into, the rest of the month of May here. But more importantly, maybe confidence for AJ Foyt as a whole. I forget who I picked in our little competition of three. Did I pick Helio?
No, that was me.
Who does anybody remember who I picked? Because obviously now that we're on the air, I have no idea who I picked. Anyways,
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, we'll have to do some research, or maybe somebody out there has a better memory than me. But for those who haven't paid attention to the results, the top Honda was none other than Marco Andretti with a 225 637. And yes, I know testing doesn't mean much, but any confidence any of these guys like Marco or Kanaan or Gabby Chavez and fourth can get going into the race is never a bad thing. And we made it through 3 test days with no accidents, no spins that I'm aware of, and outside of Wicken's gearbox problem on the rookie orientation test, and then Danica's water temperature problem. It was a relatively, uneventful test days. Did anybody see anything I missed?
No, but I was kind of hoping Jess would be the first one to mention Danica on the episode, so...
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't. You just took it away from me.
I know. I'm kind of bummed. I was hoping for it. I wasn't going to do it myself. I didn't want to say Danica first, but this is now the 20th straight episode of Danica mentioning. So
no,
it's funny, Matthew. The streak was broken last week when.
Oh, seriously?
Jess and I had Mr. Brian Bellardi on for the first half. I think we went an entire episode without mentioning Danica. Part of that was my very long-winded rants after Brian got off the phone. But I was very fired up after the Barber race. And I don't think Danica's name came up once. If somebody can prove me wrong, I'll send you an Amazon gift card.
Didn't you say Danica stole a hat in that autograph line from those kids, or was I mistaken?
Uh,
That's a joke. That was
oh,
sarcasm. Sorry.
I was like, oh no, did I say that?
That was sarcasm. I'm sorry.
You said that so seriously that I really believed it. Um, so I guess yeah, Jess, I'll turn it over to you for your testing thoughts if you want to bring up the Danica point that we talked about, or save that for the end of the show. I will leave that up to you.
I really don't have a whole lot to say about Danica's testing. I mean, she passed. Fantastic. Let's move on. I think that the only thing I can say is it was an excellent show of what this car can do at the speedway because from what I read, it was exceptionally windy, and nobody had any. Nobody saw God going into turn one. We'll put it that way. Um, so I was pretty impressed with the way the car appeared to handle. And I'm not gonna jump on the knock
Bandwagon.
Danica train about her comments after the test. I know this is not like me, but I have to say that, just from what she was saying, what she was meaning by what she was saying, is that the car is harder to drive than a NASCAR because there's no power steering. So people read way too much into what she said, in my opinion. But that's really all I can say about it. I didn't watch her do her test. Obviously, I'm not a big fan, so I really could care less.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch any of God, what was that, Tuesday's session in the afternoon since I was stuck in a car all afternoon, but I did follow it closely on my phone, at least to the best of my abilities, and I thought it was a little crazy. Danica came out and spoke honestly. I don't think really said anything that was inflammatory or really all that bad, and obviously the social media world went nuts for the next. Well, they're probably still going nuts over what she said. So yeah, I don't really have too many thoughts on it. I wish no ill will towards her during the race, but obviously because I didn't pick her in our little poll here, not that I remember who I picked. Um, you know, I hope she doesn't win, but I hope she does well. It's some positive attention for IndyCar, maybe from some of her NASCAR fans or some fans she's gained along the way. There were plenty of people at the track in Danica gear or buying Danica gear from what I could tell and the little bit I was able to watch. Um, Thank God Robbie Wickens was able to quickly get into Hinchcliffe's car after having a gearbox problem, because I definitely didn't want to see him, lose a morning of testing. But I was curious that none of the rookies went back out in the afternoon when they were allowed to. When Danica and Sage Karam, and who else was the third guy who was racing? Was it Jay Howard?
Could have been.
In the afternoon. I'm drawing a blank on it now, but nonetheless, a pretty successful test day, and I guess we can't skip talking about testing without bringing up the windscreen real quick. I posted a picture on our Instagram page earlier today of Newgarden's car with the windscreen. I'll start with my thoughts. I'll see if you guys think otherwise, but from a looks perspective, I think it looks pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of the throwback windscreens that were on the cars in the 80s or early 90s. Looks like it's a little bit taller than that, but I was interested in Newgarden's comments. I think he was a little bit more descriptive than Dixon was about everything, and how he needed to change visors to a clear visor, and what was the other thing? They had to make a change to the airflow in the front because it was actually pushing his helmet forward. So from a looks perspective, I'll give it a good grade, and from a functionality perspective, it looks like whatever they fine-tuned after Phoenix is headed on the right path. And again, I think we've said this in almost every episode, props to Jay Fry for not rushing this and saying this won't be on the car at any point in 2018 during an actual race or practice session, just for some testing. So I'll turn it over to you guys, see if maybe you guys disagree on looks. I know Simon Pagenaud said he liked it, but there was another driver who said he was not a fan of the looks.
I believe that was Kanan.
Yes,
Kanan said he didn't like the way it looked. And so,
yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I like the way it looks. I think it looks excellent. I think Jay Fry is the man. We all know that. But from looking at Dixon versus Newgarden as far as their tests and their subsequent comments, when you saw Newgarden come back in the pits, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but he looked a little knackered. He looked a little, a lot of gestures, a lot of, just seemed a little uncomfortable. And I think a lot of it had to do with the issue he was talking about behind his helmet.
Yep.
So that is, obviously that's why they do these things, is to get these kind of feedback, so you don't do what IndyCar did back in the 2008 to 2013-ish era, which is just kind of do something, don't really think about it, and just hope for the best. So to see this kind of approach is good, and to get feedback from Dixon, who is the best driver in the field, and Newgarden, who's been the best driver for the last year and a half or so in the field. I think they're getting right down to it, and then hopefully they can start getting guys like Bourdais and Pagenaud, Power, some of the other veterans, and then maybe even a couple rookies or younger drivers get their perspective on it.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're not just using Scott Dixon for every test. All right, they get one of the most veteran drivers. Now they get the 2017 champion, and I think there's going to be a third driver for the street course test that they do next. And I think Jay Fry might have mentioned it, but I'm drawing a blank. But I'm sorry, Jess, I didn't mean to cut you off before you could chime in there.
No worries. My thoughts on it are very similar to both of yours. I think it's really good that they are taking time to get the extra feedback. I will say that, and I can't remember if it was on Joseph's Twitter or on someone else's. Anyways, they had posted a picture, and it was like he must have taken it from his phone or something inside the cockpit. And I very much could see where he said he was staring at his own reflection.
Yeah.
You could see it just from that. So I think that's something they definitely need to take into account, because, even if they change the visor, it appears just from that photo that it would be an issue. So I think that's something that they need to look into, especially on tracks, like Indy, where part of the track will be bright sun and part of the track has no sun on it. I think that's going to be an interesting thing that they need to figure out how to make the drivers be able to deal with that a little bit better.
Yeah, very good point. The slow, deliberate approach is the way to go, and I guess I appreciated Newgarden's comments, good or bad, because we gain a little bit of insight into, Scott Dixon is taking the more politically correct, PR coached response to the Aero Kit, and Newgarden a little bit more honest, but not bashing it in any way, just being frank with his observations. And I saw what you saw, Jess, and tracks like Indy or Texas at night with all the lights will certainly be interesting, but I'm sure they will not rush into anything. Obviously, Jay Fry's well in charge of that one, and I guess I can't go too far without mentioning we're running low on In Jay Fry We Trust shirts, so if you want one, please shoot us a message on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I only have a few left, especially in medium and large sizes, so get them while you can. I've already ordered more twice this week, so get the order in while you can, and maybe I'll try to throw in some sort of smaller special prize with it if you place an order today. So what's next on the list here? I guess there's a little bit of interesting news that came out this week. Nothing nothing too crazy outside of testing, and now we're into the, I guess, kind of week and a half quiet period where not much is going on until the Indy GP. But the date for IndyCar's next engine formula was set to 2021. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the next bit of news about the next chassis timeline. But speaking on the engine discussion, I guess the first thing that's huge, and thank you to Jay Fry or Mark Miles or whoever is leading this, in that there will be no hybrid electric technology in the engines. That's what Formula E is for, and I don't think I would want to see that in an IndyCar. I don't know about either of you guys, but I'm glad that that's been scratched off the list already.
100%.
Yeah, I think at least until they get all of the technology perfected and they could do, the 500 miles or whatever in one vehicle, I'm good with them not adapting.
And at more than 90 miles an hour.
Yes.
Yeah, and not to say, I did watch a Formula E race a couple weeks ago when, who was it, Sam Bird crashed into the back of somebody and had to finish the race on three wheels in that last corner. And it was actually a decent race, but I still like the engine the way it sounds, and I guess the biggest thing, and there's not too much to the story, but Jay Fry wanting somewhere easily north of 750 horsepower, maybe even over 900 horsepower, which combined with this current universal aero kit would make for, I think, even some more fantastic racing. What do you think, Matt?
Oh, I mean, I think the one person who's been leading the charge on the "we need more horsepower" debate has been Townsend Bell. Yep. I think Townsend Bell has been saying for years prior to even in the universal kit and then the aero kit and now back to the universal kit, he's been saying that we need more horsepower for a while, and it would with the chassis design and the more horsepower engines, it would be just like the kart days back in the late 90s. So yeah, I think as long as they can figure out the reliability, and as long as this doesn't get out of hand as far as financially speaking,
yep.
There's no reason why they can't do some sort of recombobulation to make the engines as high horsepower as reasonably. I think the 900 is a good, cap. I think over 900 could get a little financially stressful. But what are your thoughts, Jess?
I can go either way, honestly. I think that they can produce good racing right now, but I do think it would be, it could bring more entertainment factor to it if they had more horsepower, especially, road and street courses where they're going to use it a little bit more. So I think it would be interesting. But yeah, like you said, it could get a little bit financially stressful for some of the smaller teams, especially. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested, and I think it goes hand in hand. I don't know if either of you guys caught this article. I didn't actually catch it until about an hour ago, about the IndyCar new chassis timeline, potentially 2021 or 2022. I think what was most interesting about that was, the engine, in terms of, well, if there's a new engine, it needs to be able to fit the current chassis and the new chassis, which I thought would be impossible, but it looks like, judging by the article Marshall Pruitt wrote and all of the comments I read afterwards, isn't actually that difficult, minus maybe a few moving parts. So that just goes to show that I am not a mechanic. But what I found interesting was Marshall bringing up the potential that IndyCar is still deciding whether it will continue to be a single manufacturer in Dallara, or if multiple chassis manufacturers will be allowed. I'll start with my thoughts instead of putting Matt on the spot like I normally like
What?
to. Um, I know I'm giving you a gift right now, Matt, but don't expect it to continue. Uh, at first, I was all for it. I thought, that's great, and especially if there's a third engine manufacturer. And then I started reading comments that were pretty interesting in regards to a second chassis manufacturer could drive up costs. I don't know how they came to this conclusion, but the comments were some of the more informed comments I read on social media for a change instead of the typical social media comments. So I don't really know how I feel. I don't know. I saw a lot more. Let's keep it just Dallara than I expected to see. So listen. For now, I'm going to agree and say let's keep it Dallara. They've proven to be the safest. If you're going to bring in another chassis manufacturer, there's going to be a lot of costs for research and development and testing, et cetera, et cetera. And I think IndyCar is gaining so much steam that if it means extra costs in any capacity of even just a couple $100,000, maybe it's not worth it. And now, Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot for your thoughts.
Thanks. I'll get you back later in the episode. Yeah, I totally see what the rational online comments are getting at, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. If, let's say, Swift comes in and is the second manufacturer, Swift might get the upper hand at first just because they may have like a new and exciting idea as far as how to develop a chassis. But at the end of the day, the money's going to win. So if Dallara decides to pump a bunch of money into next year's car, like at the theoretical next year, and put in the wind tunnel, develop it, do some R&D, Swift's going to counter by putting money into theirs and more money into theirs, and then they're going to charge the teams for that. So I'm on the same side as you. I would just stick with one, and if they were to do two, they should stick to the old the old '90s kart stays, where to the naked eye, a lot of the chassis look the same. But if you kind of were a trained eye and sometimes squinted, you could see that some of the front wings were different and some of the rear wings were different, and the bodies in general were different. But as a whole, they all generally look the same. So if they do multiple chassis, it would be nice if aesthetically speaking they were all the same.
Jess?
I'm sorry. I'm mentally trying to picture two different chassis, but they look basically the same. That kind of takes away from the whole point of having two different chassis, in my opinion. But I agree that it could drive up cost, but it also, on the other side, might make cost a little more competitive, just from the economic standpoint of Dallara has the market, so they can charge whatever they want, and the teams have to pay it. So I think it really could go either way, but I do definitely see the whole research and development thing costing a little bit more. And yes, testing, wind tunnel, that sort of thing. So I don't know. I think I would like to see it in the end. Do I think that they will get it anytime in the super near future? Maybe not.
Yeah, I think that's fair. First off, fantastic point on the whole pricing debate, one that never occurred to me in all of the comments I read through today. And kind of touching back on what Matt said and, keeping the chassis similar, I don't know if I would like that. Kind of like Jess said, what's the point in having two chassis then? Although maybe that's a way, if IndyCar mandates the chassis has to meet X number of requirements, but X number of requirements are open, you do that as a way to keep them similar and keep costs down, but still not exactly the same.
I think same was the poor word choice on my part, but similar. So the front wing can only be this wide, but beyond that, you guys can do what you want.
Yeah,
Okay, now I'm with you.
yeah, okay. I'm on board. I'm on board with that. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much that. And I guess the only other piece on engines I wanted to bring up, and I'm not even going to pull up the article on my computer here, is Ryan Hunter-Reay's former team owner looks to be building some prototype type car with a turbine engine. I read it. I read the article earlier today, and the thought of this car or engine becoming standard in IndyCar or Formula One or some other race series. I don't feel like a turbine engine would really bring costs down at all. Probably only bring costs up. And I'm no pro on the turbine engines. They're a little before my time here as an IndyCar fan, so I haven't done tons of research into how they work and the economics behind it. But it was a cool looking prototype, but I hope it stays away from IndyCar. I don't know if either of you guys saw that, because it only came out at some point today, I think. Matt, did you happen to see it?
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a woofer. I mean, at the end of the day, if the auto industry doesn't stray that way, then I don't see why Chevy and Honda would be the least bit interested in that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my take on it.
It'd be a cool, privateer entry for a sports car or something like that. But in terms of the open wheel cars, speaking for Formula One and IndyCar, I hope they stay far away from that. And I think Chevy and Honda, and even if they add a third engine manufacturer in the next year or so, I hope they avoid the turbine type discussion, which I can't imagine that being a realistic option at this point with everything discussed. Moving on from that, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know there was something you wanted to bring up at this point, and I'll turn it over to you in our guest leading the topic segment.
All right, well, I guess I won't. Okay, I'll let you decide. Do you want to do the fan question or do you want to do the trivia question?
Let's start with the fan question.
The fan question?
We can
All right.
segue into some, general 500 chat.
All right, so former Fantasy IndyCar champion DJ Jordan did submit a question to us on Twitter, and we did touch on this a couple episodes ago with Tanner Watkins, Mike, and myself, but we were kind of taking shots in the dark, and the field was not set yet. So with that being said, DJ wanted to know who we thought at this point would be getting bumped, and I kind of wanted to put you two on the spot and also add on to that. Is there one driver that has not been announced for the Indy 500 that you're kind of like, oh man, I wish they were racing this year? So I'll let you guys think about that, and I'll start it off. The driver, I'm going to stick with the answer I gave last episode when we talked about this, and I'm going to say I think, other than Buddy Lazier, if they do end up coming, that Pippa Mann is someone I would be a little worried about just based on her results at the Indy 500. She has a big sample size of 5 or 6 starts and has snuck in a couple times to the field. And had there been bumping, I don't know about her chances to get in safely. And then her race results have been nothing spectacular. So if I had to go with one, I'd say Pippa Mann. And then as far as the driver, I'm kind of bummed is not racing. Obviously, coming off of last year, not having Fernando Alonso in the field, even though we knew it kind of like 8 months ago, he said, this is probably not going to happen. I'm a little bummed that he and McLaren are not back, but I understand why they're not back. And McLaren said they're not coming back to IndyCar until they figure out their F1 side of things, at least on a full-time basis. They're not coming to IndyCar. Maybe we'll see them at Indy next year, but Fernando Alonso, I'm a little sad. Hopefully he does it one more time. That'd be really cool to see.
I'll let Jess answer next.
Oh yeah, now you're throwing me under the bus.
I had to do it to both of you.
Thanks. Okay, so person who I think could be at risk of getting bumped. Saw a lot of people saying that, Max Chilton should be really worried because of how his test went. I don't really see that being an issue. I mean, Could be in the long run, but probably not. Have to kind of agree with the Pippa man, though. Obviously, yes, Buddy Lazier, if he's in it, that's, I mean, I think everybody would probably say him, only because the budget is just not there, unfortunately. But yeah, Pippa, I think that people like Sage, unfortunately, will be able to get in with no problem. Jay Howard, though, that could be an issue too, just because he hasn't had a lot of practice lately. So I think I'll say Jay Howard.
I think Chip Ganassi agrees with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's pretend that Chip's not going to try to do something to his car. Let's just say, no. I think that if you put Jay against Pippa, I think Jay would 9 times out of 10 would do, way, way above and beyond what she does. But I just think, a lack of having a whole lot going on, him isn't he doing some kind of karting coaching thing? I think something, and she's out doing sports cars and things, so she's still kind of doing things, even though it's maybe not IndyCar. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt on this one. I think she's going to squeak in, and I think Jay Howard might be out. As far as who do I wish was racing now, does it have to be from how long can I go back here?
I don't know, probably last decade or so, just someone who's been there and who is not there racing anymore.
Man, that's a tough one.
That's why I made you go now, so I could look up my answer.
Oh, boo.
Yeah, right? I am not on Google at all, which is shocking. I'm usually the Google queen. By the way, your pick for the 500 was Munoz.
Yes, thank you.
I did look that up earlier. Yeah, let's see. Who do I wish was coming back? You know who would be absolutely fascinating, and it's been way longer than a decade, but I'm going to do it anyways. Tony Stewart. I would like to see him come back just because he never won it, and I would love to see him drive the wheels off of an IndyCar one more time.
That's a good one. All right, I guess it's my turn now. In terms of bumping, listen, I can't disagree with either of you guys, but for the interest of just going with somebody different here, I'm going to go with, and I hope he doesn't get bumped, Jack Harvey. I think he's definitely talented and up and coming, but that team is kind of still finding its way, and maybe they just don't have all of the resources to pull it together. And I know he passed his rookie orientation test just fine, but like we said, that doesn't guarantee you anything. But the one driver I would like to see brought back now, yes, I admittedly Googled this for the last couple of minutes here. I'm going to go with Ryan Briscoe. I think Briscoe, given a chance in this new car, could be a decent contender. I know he, had his moments and kind of, the end of his IndyCar run wasn't as strong as the beginning of his IndyCar run. I think, Matt, you wrote that on your Twitter blog a couple months ago. But I would love to see him back. And the other guy I would like to see back, who we've mentioned in this episode, is Townsend Bell. He was so strong in 2015 or 2016, whatever year that was, when he crashed with his teammate in pit lane there. That would have definitely been my pitfall of the Indy 500 that year. But getting him back in this car, I know he pretty much just isn't racing because he couldn't find a ride that he felt was competitive enough. I don't know how close he was to it, but it would have been great to see, Townsend Bell back. I think he's young enough that he could still, hop back in and do, do decently well. Speaking of the Indy 500, there was an interesting topic brought up by somebody on Twitter during rookie orientation testing, and this is a question more than a statement. Obviously, you win the Indy Lights Championship in the previous year. One of your races that you get funding for is the Indy 500. With bumping coming back this year, and Kyle Kaiser certainly not guaranteed a seat, a Indy 500 starting position. Does that kind of diminish winning Indy Lights at all, or is that just me or whoever brought that up reading too much into it on Twitter? I'll turn it over to either of you guys.
I'll go first. I think there should be nothing in the bylaws that states if you win the Indy Lights title, you're guaranteed a spot in the next year's Indy 500. They should say you have the funding for it, which they do, but you should have to go out there and earn it just like everybody else. And, the guys who have won the Indy Lights championships the last couple of years, they've been able to stroll into the qualifying session and just been able to do a little bit of a taradiddle. They don't need to put too many fast laps down. They can just kind of just safely coast on into the field and then, work at it in the race. So I'm of the opinion that, if you really, if you're in the big leagues now, you should have to earn your spot just like everybody else.
Just to jump in real quick before Jess goes, I don't disagree with that at all.
Okay, well, to throw mine in there, I don't disagree either. Just because you win the Indy Lights Championship doesn't mean that you are going to be good enough to get in the biggest race in the world. It means that you should be good enough to get in there, and IndyCar wants you to try to get in there. But, who's to say that we don't have 20 people crawl out of the walls wanting to qualify who haven't raced in a while, and they all beat them.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen.
Are you making a Jay Howard reference?
Well done, if so.
No.
And kind of, piggybacking off what Jess said, the last couple Indy 500 rookies in Ed Jones or champions, Indy Lights champions. There we go. Ed Jones obviously finishing third last year. Who won the Indy Lights championship 2 years ago, Matt? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Piggott, wasn't it?
Yeah, Piggott. Obviously we've seen the direction of both of their careers. Ed Jones getting with Ganassi after finishing third in the 500 last year, and for the most part has had a strong start to the year. And Piggott getting promoted in a full-time ride, and I don't think the results have really been indicative of the race pace he showed, similar to early last year too. Do I think Kaiser is going to get bumped necessarily? Probably not. I think he's a strong driver, and I don't think he has all that much to worry about. But I guess the moral of the story here is we shouldn't be handing out participation trophies just because you won the Indy Lights Championship last year. And maybe we'll make that the Twitter poll of the week. I'll put that up tomorrow so everybody can listen to the episode instead of wondering why I'm posting that. And with that, Matt, we will go back to you for your trivia question of the week.
All right, so there are 7 answers to this question. And I told them before the show that Mike and Jess can kind of tag team this one. And if they miss any, feel free to chime in to see who they didn't get. But so your guys' trivia question is, since 2008, we've seen 7 Canadian drivers. Can you name them all?
Alex Tagliani.
Hinch.
Wickens.
Oh boy. Jacques Villeneuve. Tagliani you mentioned. Hinchcliffe you mentioned.
So we got 4 of the 7.
Um,
And we're both frozen now. Oh, gosh.
come on. All right, let's see here.
No Googling, Mike. No Googling.
I'm
If you're
I'm
listening at
Googling.
home,
My phone
don't.
is actually in my pocket.
I've done it before where someone asks like a trivia question and you Google it and you answer on Twitter, and it's very unsatisfying.
Admittedly, I'm on Google and I still can't come up with any more answers. So we have Hinch, Wickens, Tagliani, Villeneuve.
So we're missing 3.
We're missing 3. I really
Marty Roth.
Marty, how did you get that?
That was before 2008.
No, he raced in 2008.
Was that one of them?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one I was going to stump you guys on. Are you kidding me? How did you know that?
No, I got him because his Canadian flag car.
That was a thing? You got to send me a picture of that.
Yes, it was a thing.
Matt's,
that was like his whole team.
Was it different than his like monster bug-eyed tongue-out car that he tested at Chicago that one time? If you don't know what I'm talking about, send that to Mike so he can post it. So you guys got 2 left. If you can't, we'll turn it to Twitter.
Paul Tracy.
I was gonna say there's one big one you guys are missing, but yes, you got Paul Tracy. So now there's 1.
God, it's probably somebody really random, isn't it?
No, because I think Marty Roth was his really random one.
That was supposed to be the one I stumped you guys with.
We're going current, right?
Yes.
No,
2008.
2008 and onward. So Clam and DeMello.
There you go.
Yes.
So to recap, these 2 are just. If you guys need to go trivia night with anybody on bar night, you want to bring Jess and Mike with you.
And if it's like really obscure, I'm gonna know it.
So just to recap, so since 2008, we've had 7 Canadian drivers: Marty Roth, Alex Tagliani, James Hinchcliffe, Paul Tracy, Robert Wickens, Zachary Clayman-Danel, and Jacques Villeneuve, who did do the 2014 Indy 500. So props to you guys. You know, next time I'm on the show, I'll dream up something else, and hopefully this time maybe I took it a little easy on you this time, and next time I'll try to stump you guys.
All right, Matt. I'm gonna try to stump you.
All right, go.
There is one current Indy Mazda Road to Indy driver that is Canadian. Can you name him?
Is it Thompson?
Yes. Can you
Parker
guess his first
Thompson?
Name? Yep, there you go. Parker
Yes,
Thompson.
and he will. If you don't know the name Parker Thompson, get used to that name. He will make something of himself. If not in IndyCar, some sports cars or something. But I do think in IndyCar he'll make a name for himself.
Yeah, he's had two great weekends to start the Pro Mazda season, and I'm pretty sure he's the points leader without looking it up. I don't want to Google that one. So, moving on, we're getting close to the 45-minute mark here. A real quick shout out to a sponsor we're bringing on board for the month of May. Most likely, probably going to expand a little bit further, but sponsored by country music up-and-comer Shane Runyon. His new single, Tattoos, is available on your country music station, iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, pretty much anywhere wherever you listen to music. ShaneRunyon.com, and all his social media is at Shane Runyon. It's RUNION. And interesting fact, he has the same management team as Mr. Zach Veach and Spencer Piggott and Jay Howard. So best of luck to him, and I think he's touring somewhere near Philadelphia in the next couple days. I don't admittedly know all that much about country music, but I'm going to give it a shot now that he's a show sponsor, and we'll be expanding on that in the next couple weeks here. I guess it's time. I guess we can jump right into the pitfalls here, unless there's either of you guys have anything else you would like to bring up.
I
don't know, Jess.
Everything.
Jess, you got anything on Danica or?
No, Sparkle Pony passed her test this week, so that's it.
I think we're gonna make that the episode title for the week.
Sparkle Pony passed her test.
Sparkle. Is that mean? Is that too mean, guys?
No,
everybody calls her Sparkle Pony, so I'm pretty sure she's okay with it.
especially Jennifer.
Yep.
All right, so pitfalls. I'll start. Mine's kind of short, not too long, with not too much going on. But Spencer Gallagher in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, failing a drug test. I mean, I know drug tests are random in motorsports. You don't know when you're getting one, but as a professional, when you know at some point in the season you're going to get drug tested, obviously the test doesn't, or the articles don't say what he did, which would help me out in my argument here. But I mean, come on, man. You have to use better judgment than that. And the whole, I'm so sorry, I made a one-time mistake, and I'm going to enter into NASCAR's rehab program that has a fancy name. I feel like it's just the canned thing that his PR team told him to say because he screwed up. And unfortunately, when you screw up like that in motorsports, you might not get another chance. And right now, he's just suspended indefinitely. They haven't said whether it's going to be a race or a season or a permanent ban of sorts. But I feel like whether you're in IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula E, Formula One, any racing series, or any job, whether it's motorsports or not, if you know you're getting a random drug test at some point, it's just better, just say no. Let's just go back to the old school. Just don't do it. It's just easier that way. You're going to screw yourself out of a career. I can't say it enough that stupid decisions, just it's gonna hurt him for a while. I've never heard his name before I saw the article, to be completely honest, but it's not going to help him make a good name for himself, no matter where he ends up racing. And I'll turn it over to either of you guys if you want to add on or go on to your own. It's up to you.
No, you make a fair point. And the only two others that come to, three others, because Frank Monte, he was like a part-timer in IndyCar, like maybe 5 or 6 starts. He did F1, Formula E. He got busted for, I think they might have said cocaine, maybe.
Sounds about right.
And then, what's his face? Mayfield. What's his first? I can't remember his first name.
Jeremy Mayfield.
There you go. Yeah, he got busted for something, and then I think the most famous one was AJ Allmendinger. But I think Allmendinger is a good precedent that you can turn it around. So hopefully he does kind of learn. Hopefully he does learn from it and move on. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I appreciate everybody that took time to listen to this episode. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm still flabbergasted that Jess got Marty Roth. I can't believe that. Jess, I'll have to send you some ice cream or something as a reward. I just can't believe. I can't believe that, but I'll have to come up with a tougher one next time. But my pitfall has to do with the Formula One race, which, if you guys haven't heard me on the show before, I'm not the biggest fan of the modern Formula One, but the Baku, or the race in Baku, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, was fantastic the last 2 years. It's only been around for 2 years, but it's been fantastic both years. So I made it a mission to watch it because I figured it put on a good show, and it did. It was a fantastic race. There was a lot of plot twists, a lot of drama. There was not a lot, but a couple lead changes, which for Formula One is not too common.
Right now, that's a lot.
Right. I think there was like 5 or 6 or something, which is out of this world. But so, yeah, and my pitfall is to Red Bull, and I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a stance on the incident that happened between Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo. I think Verstappen, I would put the blame on him. I think he was driving like a bit of a kumquat. He has his way of switching lines while under braking, and going down to that first turn at Baku, I don't know the exact speed off the top of my head, but it's probably one of the fastest straights in Formula One. And so when he went right and then Ricciardo went left, and Verstappen went back to the left, and Ricciardo hit him. And so the black and white argument is, well, Ricciardo hit him, so Ricciardo's to blame. But at the end of the day, you got to kind of take in everything. And the quintessential rule in Formula One is you don't take out your teammate, and I think at the same time you gotta race respectfully with your teammate. And I tweeted about it. I was like, these guys can't do this all race because Verstappen was putting them towards the inside on sharp turns and really just racing them hard all race, and you could just see it coming, and then it happened, and I couldn't believe it. Sammy, my fiance, and just like came out to watch the race with me, and like 2 laps later they hit, and I like jumped up and screamed. I'm like, ah! So, yeah, you just gotta race your teammates a little more respect, and I don't think Verstappen was racing all that respectfully, and I don't think he has a history of. I mean, when you're in so many incidents, if you're the common denominator, and I argued the same thing about Charlie Kimball 2 years ago, if you're always at the center of incidents, you got to have some sort of factor in it. You're not randomly taken out every race. There's got to be a little more to it. So my pitfall is to Red Bull and specifically Max Verstappen for driving like a bit of a kumquat.
Yeah, that brings you're 100% spot on, and brings up the point of the blocking rules in F1. I don't understand them. I don't get the point of it, and it frustrates me in watching what little of F1 I watch. Is you're allowed to block once or twice or whatever it is, and that's part of why that accident happened is the ridiculous blocking rules that ruined the entire Red Bull race. But I'll just leave it at that and turn it over to Jess.
I didn't watch the F1 race, but I read a little bit about it, and the one thing that kind of disappoints me in the whole thing is Red Bull's comment after, how they said there's no team rules right now, but kind of led you to believe there's going to be team rules. That's kind of disappointing because I know that's how F1 works, but at the same time, it just takes away from the racing, and I think they should let their guys duke it out. Now, granted, I understand that accident cost them a small fortune, but just my opinion. They should let them race. So, coming to my pitfall, it's a little bit quirky, we'll say. I am so annoyed over the past, I don't even know, we'll call it 8-10 years.
Just air it out.
The last couple days of April, that dang Justin Timberlake meme, it's going to be May. Like, can we move on and find some different way to say it's going to be May?
Yeah, I'm in full support of this one. I will pay somebody to remove that meme from the internet. I get it. Listen, even non-racing people post it way too often, but in the IndyCar racing community, I think
it's like 10,000 times.
Yeah,
you see it like 10,000 times.
It's, I think Jess wins the Pitfall of the Week award that I just made up out of nowhere.
Yes.
There's no prize for this. There's no prize for this one, but yeah, it's. I don't know if Matt has one of his fancy words here, but it's just nauseating.
It's horse hockey. We'll go with one from last time. It's horse hockey. But if anybody's wondering at home, this is Jess's secret way of asking you all to tweet it to her as much as possible.
Oh, God, I can't wait.
Well done. Well done. All right, we're coming up on the hour here, so I'll wrap it up real quick. Obviously, listen to the show on Wildfire Sports or WildfireRadioSports.com. Fridays 3:15 to 4:15 Eastern. If you're sitting in front of the computer, they also have an app on iPhone and Android, or continue to listen to the show on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to it. Thank you to every listener so far. I saw a bunch of more reviews come in. I have some more prizes to mail out when I have some free time, hopefully tomorrow or Monday. And buy your NJ Fryer We Trust t-shirts. They're going faster than I expected, which is a good thing, and I think that just goes to show that everybody is really recognizing how great of a job Jay Fry is doing, and I think we'll have another contest or two to announce either next week or the week after, and I think that's it. I think hopefully we'll have a special guest on next week, specialer than Matt. But Matt
Specialer? Did we just make up a new word?
I think we just made up a new word at the end of the episode. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a long day. And
Yes.
Matt is more than a guest at this point. Matt is like our special co-host,
Third wheel.
specialer co-host.
I call third wheel. No, it's just I nothing against Mike. I always love coming on, but it's nice to come on with Jess again. It's been almost 2 months since I've been on a show with Jess, so Jess, it was really cool to be. I can tell you over the episode that it's cool to hear your opinions rather than tweeting to you 6 times when I listen to the episode how cool your opinions are. So it's really cool to be on with both of you, but just
Yeah.
And I came up with Marty Roth.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
came, so I got to send you some ice cream.
And for those who are interested in live tweets of the episode, Matt typically listens to the episodes that he's generally, when he doesn't join in, and tweets out some thoughts, and they're usually spot on. Even if he disagrees with me, he's usually pretty accurate in his reasoning. So check it out at IndyCar_MN.
What he's really saying is that he agrees with me calling out his sense of humor.
Oh yeah, listen. I just said the word specialer at the end of this episode. Everybody now is going to be like, "Who the heck is this guy?" So yeah, and stay tuned for some special things we have coming during the month of May, especially in the 2 weeks when I'm out in Indy. I'll try to do some different things and giveaways and fun stuff. And with that, I will turn it over to Jess to sign it out.
And guys, keep your lug nuts tight.